Hello and welcome to the Out and Loud Pune International Queer Film Festival Edition 5. And today we have some amazing speakers who will share their journey about growing as a woman. And before that, I would like to thank you all for contributing and helping us make sure this film festival happen. Also, I would like to thank all our sponsors, Barclays, Leading with Pride, Working with Pride, Publicis Sapient, IBM. Um, and thank you everyone for registering and signing up, because I see this year we have great response. People are signing up and attending our festival. So thank you very much. Without our audience, our festival is not successful at all. So thank you so much. I understand it's COVID, and I hope you all are staying home, staying safe. In case you have to get out, please wear mask and maintain social distancing. So, as you all know, that MIST always believes in intersectionality. We believe in coming together, and hence this year at festival we have this talk about how women leaders are formed, or their journey of how have they grown in life. So we have two amazing speakers, and our first speaker is Vieshaka. Vieshaka is part of Publicis Sapient, and also I reached out to her when I went through her LinkedIn profile. And that's how I saw how Vieshaka has grown. So before I talk more about Vieshaka, let me welcome Vieshaka on screen. I know I'm saying screen because, yes, we are virtual. We are not on a stage. Hi, Vieshaka. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I was going to say about your LinkedIn, and then I thought, wait, let me call you first. So, or you could even consider this as question. So I was going through people to see people who have started from scratch and has reached to a greater level in their professional career. And that's how we were thinking of talking about people. If we see a lot of corporates till today have this women recruitment drive or inclusion programs, or there are awards that have been given by different organizations. So which means women are still trying to be there at that place in this patriarchal world. I won't say country because I think the world is patriarchal. So I would like to know about, before you started, so maybe just little introduction. I just gave a brief that where you work, introduction about yourself, and could you share your story of how from a scratch, where I think research associate to now director of DNI?
Yes, so thank you. And let me also welcome everyone who's watching this and will be watching this, recording. And welcome to the Pune Queer Film Festival. We are very, very excited. We also host the Queer Film Festival along with MIST, along with Sham and Ram at our workplace. And it's always been a success, very, very inspiring. I didn't want to take the spotlight off the subject and the community, which I absolutely love. And I think whatever support we are giving today, I think it needs to just keep amplifying for it to become more mainstream, for everybody to get dignity. And that's my 12-year-old son. So that's my journey. So who am I? I am currently in my professional life, I lead diversity, equity, and inclusion at Publicis Sapient India. I also have very large support communities that I manage outside of work. A very large mothers group called Super Moms of India on Facebook, another Facebook and WhatsApp, huge single parents community across India called Single Parents Family. I also manage and lead Working with Pride, and an amazing community of DNI professionals and LGBTQI advocates, where I think we learn and grow every day. I think that's one of the groups that I actually look forward to, from learning, from checking what's happening, and that keeps me going. Also, other communities of single women and women support. And Shyam, like you said, I think the gender agenda is never going out of fashion. That's because while I personally have also other communities associated with this effort for the last at least 12, 14 years. But we've not reached a place where we would want to be, in the sense that, we would actually like to be in a place where we don't have to have special programs to, to get more women in the workplace, to have more women in leadership at the workplace. But we are not there. But excellent efforts. You will have a lot of organization talking about their efforts. I am extremely proud of Publicis Sapiens' most recent effort, where we have currently 25 women in our career attorney program who joined us back from their career breaks, and that's phenomenal. I mean, it's just not phenomenal only the fact that we've been able to hire them, but I think it's phenomenal because you get so many people with that kind of experience and seasoning back at the workplace. And maybe today we are not able to define the skill or measure the skill and thought process that a lot of people with diverse backgrounds bring in, but that is something that's exactly what comes out when we look at these research on how ethnically and diverse organizations actually do much better in terms of productivity and growth. This is why it is, because as a person goes through different life stages, as a person becomes a mother, as a person goes through a lot of different diverse challenges that diverse groups and underrepresented groups go through, it brings you wisdom. It brings you ways to work around challenges. It brings you the tolerance and patience, and how you actually handle interpersonals, how you resolve a situation, how you get you know you work out of constraints, and that's what it is. So I'm very glad, and that is exactly the reason why the gender agenda keeps needing more fuel, and we are all here to support it. I know you asked me the question of from a research associate to a director, and now that you said it, it actually brought back a lot of memories of my first job. um, so yes, I changed a lot of tracks in my life professionally to make my personal life work, right? So if my so I actually studied environmental sciences. I have two postgrad degrees. In fact, I did a master's in environment management and again an MSc in environmental sciences. I wanted to actually study further, but I also wanted to be active on the ground. I'm that kind of a person. I'm like a doer. So uh, my first few jobs were in the field of environment, and I can't say I got everything I wanted, because frankly I wanted to a consulting job, right? I think that was the cream of the work that I used to do, work with different organizations. Even my internship was to work with different organizations. But I'm also a very people's person. I like to be with people. I like to be with my family. I like to be around my friends. I'm one of those people who are really constrained around the lockdown because I can't meet people. So I realized when I saw the most successful peers in that industry that they would travel at least 20 days in a month. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to be happy at work, but I will miss my people. And I was hence very happy to have my job, my first internship, and then again my second job was to work with FICCI, the Federation of Indian Chambers. I loved this place because it was very it gave you a very large canvas. You work with a lot of different organizations, etc. But again, this was one workplace which also taught me that there is a non-glamorous side of every work, right? So we would have these massive conferences, and I'm telling you that we would be sitting and making calls, right? A lot of my writing would get criticized because it was all very formal letters, and there was so much of refinement that came into it. Anyways, fast forward, I get married and I change cities. So I was in Delhi, then I come to Bangalore, and we generally used to have small back offices of larger organizations in Bangalore. Organizations that were in Delhi, and there I used to work with head offices of industry, head offices of embassies, head offices of multinational organizations. Whereas here you will have like a site office or something, and hence I started doing some work with an environment research organization. And because of my coordination, my program management, project management skills, I started doing some development work in that. And then while I love the work that the organization was doing, because they were doing research in forests, I could not see myself being very happy with the pace, right? And then came, then I started researching, and I realized that a CSR lead is a good position to have. And I joined Wipro Peripherals as their CSR lead. And I was, I think working with that organization for 3 to 4 years, and it was a very, very glorious time because I got such a beautiful space to work on a lot of different kind of work. And I grew up in the background of NGOs. Like my family's members run NGOs, and I really like that connect with communities. And I, as I was growing and I used to volunteer with them, those skills kind of came abroad. So I used to lead some projects in Nagapattinam, which was a tsunami hit area, tree plantations, and e-waste management. A lot of, I think it was the first project of civil project of setting up e-waste centers across Bangalore, and this is way back in 2004. Anyway, so I grew quite a bit in that organization, and they wanted me to have larger portfolios. And I actually had a couple of different departments vying for my energy and enthusiasm, and I think ready for more. But this was not something I saw. This was something my boss saw, and then he said that I think you should groom your reportee to do more of the CSR work and do something else. And that was when I came into HR. And I chose HR because I could see people. What do I say? I wanted to work more with people, right? And it was really that. And from 2005, my career in HR started, employee engagement in HR. And my first job really was also about I used to lead talent acquisition for this organization, which was difficult because at that point of time, the IT organizations used to really pay a lot for talent, and whatever you would want to, have as a talent to get them at the right time, the right price point was very difficult, and retention was difficult. And we were going through an era of where people would work for 10, 15 years in an organization to where people were jumping every year.
Yeah.
And organizations were finding it really difficult, and this is then, right? And I think this is the time when I was also involved in certain culture efforts. Now what I'm trying to tell you is this is an organization where I had a lot of these I volunteered for different things, so I picked up different skills. I worked with their ethics and culture work. I worked with their employee engagement. I worked as an HR business partner and learned quite a bit. I started heading talent acquisition. I was basically bringing their centralizing their function, and I did not know much about talent acquisition. So I actually had to learn everything from interviewing to profile testing to how a process is saying. I'm very grateful to people who spend the time to teach me. Thankfully, it worked very well till a time that I felt that I wanted to have a family. Um, and this was an organization that actually had started providing flexi options, but it was not a policy at that point of time. And my next organizational choice came from the fact that somebody told me X organization is actually women friendly, and I was thinking, what does it even mean? But I got through, and I worked with Accenture for a very long time. And this is the time when my D&I journey also started again. I also did very different profile of work. So, in Bangalore, I started working in CSR, and then it came to HR. So it was not a thought through process. In fact, I joined Accenture where within 3 months, I knew that I was carrying. And I can tell you, I was actually skeptical to tell my boss, that I'm carrying and I'll have to go on maternity leave, because this is how you condition your thinking, because that's how you're thinking other people are looking at you. And one of the reasons was that in the previous organization, I used to see a lot of leaders shying away from hiring women at a certain career stage. Absolute fabulous men, amazing leaders. But in this, they would just say, they're at a stage where they will get married or they will have children, and I can't have that break right now. And I would have leaders in the same organization who were absolutely happy to hire women. And I learned that those women stayed more than the men that they had hired. Maybe it's coincidental, but I also learned from the way the biases would play out. So now I came to this organization that had a vision to provide, preferable workplace conditions to women. Like, when you actually find what you need,
Yeah.
and I did find what I needed. It was a much larger canvas. My D&I journey started. I also was able to experiment different profiles. I actually worked in some 3 to 4 different profiles in that organization, including the global organization. And I'll again tell you, I changed track from an India team to a global organization because my then ex-husband, he was, trying out assignments abroad, and he couldn't go because some point of time he would say that I would like to go with the family. So I took up a global role, not knowing much about what work it will entail, just because of the flexibility and the global nature of that work. And just in hope. And for the first 6 months, I really did not even know what hit me because I wouldn't understand the work. And I'm thinking, and this taught me so much of patience because that work actually was evolving, and it became like a huge set of work that we did globally through Accenture, in their talent architecture, and I led a huge piece of that work. But it started with knowing nothing, getting bored, not even having 8 hours of work at some point of time, but just going through the journey. So it taught me that a lot of these things evolve. And I it is also a time when my son was very small, so it gave me time to work from home because it was a global work, so I used to work from home, and I could see him grow and get through a certain milestone that you need. Like, I wanted to be there with him. I was very hands on. It is also at this point of time I experienced a lot of women around me who wanted to do well in their careers, which is excellent. Not see enough role model women in leadership, especially women who had challenges of in-laws, having children, having to do housework, maybe regular women, right? And I used to actually take my child to some of the networking meetings because I didn't want to miss out neither my time with the child, neither did I want to miss out, the time when people network, the office parties. And it worked out very well. It was really an experiment, but it worked out very well because all our colleagues would be very nice to my child, and my child would have more people around him, and I also got my time. I think it all, I have messages from women telling me that it's inspired them to see this whole thing come together. uh,
Yeah, true. Because I think right now, when we all offices are virtual, we talk
yeah,
about how it's okay for a child to cry behind. Or
absolutely.
initially, I think a lot of women were worried about how to manage things. So I think
And
it's very
you're
inspiring
right.
that you did it long back.
And I would like women to know that they should try everything, right? And not that this solution will work for everyone. There are women who will sometimes want to leave their children behind and just have their own time, and that's absolutely okay because that's what works for them. I learned, and I also would like to tell you that there was a time when I used to be very, very skeptical: can I work or not? And somebody who used to be my counselor at work said that no woman can actually spend 24 hours or give 24 hours to somebody. So even people who stay at home um, take some time for themselves. So if you're working and you're able to get a quality time with your child at your home, I think that's success. And that helped me move on. And thankfully, this was also a place that let you be. But I also have to tell you, Sham, that the reason a lot of people feel demotivated, I've had those reasons. Like, I've had colleagues who would forget about me in meetings because I'm working from home sometimes, or I'm using flexibility within a India role, right? I've had people tell me that the visibility, out of sight, out of mind, and I was like, okay, I wanted to work. I like my work. If it affects a promotion, if it affects a certain project, it's fine. And I used to keep fighting. I'm very direct as a communicator, so I would go back and tell people, I don't like this. You keep forgetting me, but it would keep happening. It happened. But I was very happy with my work, and especially when I did the global work, I think that's something that came handy last year during the lockdown. Is that I started learning baking. In fact, I was getting into exercising because I used to get that little bit of time, right? And I used to do 3 a.m. nights. But because I did 3 a.m. nights and I had a little bit of relief in the morning, I realized that I'm having a really nice time with my child. And then the next year, the year after, I started telling I started remarketing my time boundaries, and I would not log in the morning so that I have like the whole afternoon till
Yeah.
afternoon. So that anyway, so my journey continued. I really picked different things as it came. If first, my driver has been work. So if I really like a work,
Yeah.
and I've had a good conversation, and I generally like the people I work with, I'm happy.
Okay.
I've also been at workplaces which I have felt are not very, where I felt not everybody is getting the dignity at work, and I take it, I'm very idealistic, so I would have fought for it. I've also had people I felt are, you will all, I'm just saying this for the benefit of those people who get really miffed with badly behaved people or people who don't treat you right. And it does happen. It's happened to me.
Yeah.
And at some point of time, I also said, okay, fine, I'm just going to not work here, right? And not always can you leave your job. It doesn't always work out for you. But I went back and checked because I did get a sabbatical for some time to think about all of this. And I went back and checked that sometimes instead of letting that feeling, not good feeling, be pervasive to that entire thing, let's keep it to that incident. Okay, this person at this time did not treat me right, but the rest of it is working. What we think is, okay, this is just not happening for me because I'm upset about this. So if you keep it situational, then the rest of it works, and then you will find your way. And I found, the best thing is through all of these experiences, I learned what not to do.
Okay.
Right? I don't think I was a great supervisor. My first, thankfully, I have found very good friends everywhere I worked. Everywhere I found friends. Thankfully, most and all of my reportees are also still my friends, and I'm very happy. But I can say that a lot of them would have hated me when they started working with me because I really like to push people.
I
Uh,
think that's okay because all of us hate our managers. I'm sure about that.
yeah, but I did not want to be hated, and I can assure you, no manager wants to be hated. So I worked hard on it. And sometime back when I met my first reportee in that CSR job, and I remember him putting a post saying that once a boss, always my boss. And I remember how much we pushed his boundaries. And I used to hate myself when I would, get into a conflict with a reportee. But I learned from every one of them, and I'm very grateful they're my friends. So remember, when you hate your managers, they're also learning. Not everybody knows everything,
Yeah.
right? So you have to learn to forgive yourself. You also have to learn to
And others.
keep difficult things in compartments, and you have to learn to forgive others, knowing that since as like you've grown, after some time they would have also grown. So give people benefit of doubt, give people a chance. And I think at Sapient, at Publicis Sapient, I have found a lot of like-minded people who talk the same language, which is why you see a lot of us working in the same direction. So when I was offered this job, I think I was very elated because this is my most passion area. I've led different HR efforts, but this is where my heart lies. I actually do a lot of HR roles to get feedback from the ground on, okay, what's happening, what's the real scenario on the ground, because a lot of the work that we do is at a high end, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important to be connected, but that's really my journey.
That's very so. What I pick from the story is it's not only about being a woman. So you need to be there and know yourself what you want to do. It's okay to switch your roles, but you need to plan ahead. Is what I learned from what you said. Correct me if I'm wrong. And plus,
Absolutely.
strive or fight for what you want.
Absolutely. If I really have to summarize what I have learned from my journey, which I will definitely take forward. See, one thing that has always helped me, I always show up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious, and if I have something, I always show up. I hardly cancel meeting anyone or going somewhere. Sham, you would know that, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
Second thing is I always trust my gut. I mean, if my heart says do something, it is not making any logical sense, but I really want to explore it or I want to do it, I will do it.
Yeah.
It's a pain for a lot of people around me sometimes because they think I'm walking right into a risk, but take that risk. What's the worst that can happen? You like really, what's the worst that can happen,
True.
right? And second is experiment a lot and persist.
Yeah. So, Vishaka, we are running out of time, but I don't want to skip any question. So, I have two questions for you. We'll keep it quick and short. So, my first question is not something that we had planned because it just came up when you were talking. So, I thought let's talk about it. So, it's about what do you tell people who have kids and right now in the situation where people are, it's maybe a message to people where they have to make sure their kids are studying online and they also have to attend office, but both the parents are working. How is this situation managed right now currently? Most of the time I know that it's all pushed on the women or the mother at home, and this week is the Mother's Day, so
Yes,
advice or a tip that you use.
it is hard. It is hard, and I think it's important for all of us to be kind to ourselves and say, yes, it is hard, right? So, at a time when we are stretched thin, that is not the time to do a lot of hard and perfect work. So please don't try to be perfectionist. You're just about balancing, that picture that you have different hands balancing everything. That's really where we are. We all need to acknowledge it. I've seen a lot of people trying to keep the house very nice and then want to excel at work and really want to work hard for a promotion that year. And also think that okay, I want to be sane and good looking. It's not always going to be possible. Sometimes you may not want to uh, sometimes you don't even feel like working on talking to anybody, and it's okay to do that, right? I think please take care of yourself. And I know it sounds really rash. Sometimes you think, how will I take care of yourself? But if you are okay, everything else will be okay. So actually cut down things that you can do, and it's okay for the house to look like a mess. Clean after 3 days, you know somehow let's
Yeah,
just do the utensils and that's all. And I'm sure I'm not even giving that yarn of okay, tell other people to share the load, because I'm sure they've already tried.
yeah,
So whatever has happened. Whatever has not happened may not be in your control. Don't try to excel everywhere, especially don't take a lot of work pressure. Don't try to ensure that your child is doing extremely well in education that year. It's a hard year even for the children, right? um, I think, and I'll give you a small tip that works for me, and maybe it'll work for you, so I'll share it. Don't judge me for it, but sometimes just dressing up nicely, taking that time to put that light makeup. And this is only for women, as I see it, as mothers, because we forget, but it is for everyone. Like you sit in a dreary this thing, get off camera, but at least you look at yourself, you feel good. That feeling good will carry you through. So I would say, please put an effort on self-care. Keep that time, even if it takes about 5 minutes in the morning. uh, Love the look. Love to look at yourself, right? So do that for yourself. You must take care of yourself, and once you take care of yourself, everything else will fall in place. Thank you for
that's
asking the question, Shyam.
thank you for reminding me this point. So it was useful question, and I've heard a lot of people during lockdown talking about this. That's why I thought it's good to ask. So before I go to the next question, in case people, audience who are watching, if you all have any questions, you all can comment on Facebook or YouTube. The comments will be shared, and we can ask the question. Um, you can comment at any time during the broadcast so that we can pick it up later during the question time. So before we start getting questions, the next question for you is about, you spoke initially about single mother group or single parents group. So could you share something little more about it, and how can one be a part of it and support? It's like, I guess it is something like a support group to help each other.
Yes, so I started with this mothers group, and it's called, my group is called Super Mums of India, and I share managing that group with four other fabulous women of different backgrounds. And then the single parents group is also very, very close to my heart. And it is because these are spaces where people talk about something they can't share generally. They can't share with family. If you're having a bad marriage or you're having a bad marriage experience for this time, maybe a limited time, who do you really tell, right? If you're having, if as a single parent, if you're going through divorce, or maybe your spouse has passed away many years back, but you're still grieving, you think people just get bored of it, right? uh, so these groups are where people can talk safely. You can talk anonymously. You can talk, we become friends. So on Facebook, you can find us, place your request, we'll get you in. You can, of course, PM me and I will get you in. We also have strong WhatsApp communities for the single parents. Again, issues with children, things that, we generally don't have a space of, even the sexuality of a single parent. At a life stage where you did not expect to be single, the financial insecurity of it, new relationships, which can be difficult, which can be, you're having a breakup and you're 45 or 50 or 55. Who do you think you can really share it with? People, you think people will just laugh at you. And of course, our Working with Pride, another of my favorite group, right? I've learned so much, and I think my family has expanded because of people in the group. Again, you can message me and we'll add you in. I think fabulous groups, and my heart lies with my community groups.
So, is there a handle for the Facebook group so we can put it on the screen?
Yes, so it's called Super Moms of India, which is the mothers group.
Okay.
The Facebook group is also called Single Parents Family, and Working with Pride is more a WhatsApp community, so you can message me.
Ram, can you add that in the comment and share it? And no, I asked Ram to do it from the back end. He'll be doing it. Sure. So, Vieshaka, I don't think there is any question, but people have shared some comments. They enjoyed, they liked what you said, and people loved the journey that you had. And I'm sure you're inspiration to a lot of people. And thank you so much for taking out time today and coming here, talking to us. We have a small gift from our side, which will be on your email because it's virtual. It can't be given physically. So you'll receive that small gift on your email. And also you have still pending my birthday gift. You've still not claimed it. So not my birthday gift. I mean, your birthday gift that was sent to you. Please use that. So before it expires. And another gift is on the way, which will from Out and Loud team. Just a courtesy to say thank you for taking your time and coming here.
Thank you.
And
all of you. Fabulous.
Sorry. I was saying, and hope you stay and watch and through the next. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Do you have to say anything? Last words to the audience?
No, I am just very, very proud of both of you. I can see a question, but before that, let me just say this, right?
Yeah, I think question came up, right?
I think I'm very, very proud of both of you and the entire team for keep, churning out such beautiful movies every year. And of course, Sham, I'm also aware of the community support work that you do. So I'm a huge fan. And at Publicis, we'll continue to support you and look forward to this journey. Thank you so much. Ashin, I know you asked me what made you choose to go into diversity and inclusion. Actually, my first incident in talent acquisition where I saw bias was something that, was not making me feel good. And then when I got an opportunity to be in an inclusive organization, and my vision grew with that. So, and then, I never stopped. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vieshaka. And please stay back. We have another guest, Megha. So we can, if you have some time, you can either stay on this platform or you could also join us live, whichever is comfortable.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Now we also have another person called Megha. Megha is like a sweet friend and also I would like to say, okay, before, like always, I start just introducing and blabbering, right? I'm very new to this platform, so excuse me for that. Let me welcome Megha on the screen, and then maybe I will talk a little bit about her and let her also introduce her. Hi, Megha, how are you?
I am very well. How's everyone doing?
Everything is good, and thank you so much for accepting and joining us today on this live.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure.
So, I'm going to just introduce my part of you. Megha has been even Megha is one of the person I've used LinkedIn to source all these people and see what they have done. So Megha is one of the persons who has been volunteering at all our events in Bangalore. And without us even announcing volunteer, the first message would be, "Hey, can I come and volunteer and support?" So Megha has always been there as an ally for the community, being supportive and doing. And about choosing Megha for today's talk is even Megha has gone from working uh, to an organization to now being a founder of an organization and mostly works in field of education. I mean, everything that I read was education. So correct me if I'm wrong, Megha. So if you have to add something, Megha, please. I don't know if I missed something of your introduction. Yeah, this was all what I researched. So.
No, I think that's perfect. I think you've introduced me really well and really perfectly.
Yeah. So same question again because we are talking about journey of women. So how did you start, and did you think? Can you share your journey? Was it difficult for a woman to start their own organization or be a part of entity of their own? Could you share
Yeah,
your journey from the start? Like, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Thanks so much, Sham, and Ram for having me on this. I think I've become a little skeptical of talking at especially LGBTQ groups. But thanks for having me. And I was listening to Vieshaka, and there was just so much that was resonating. That was like, yes, I know what that feels like. I know what that means. So I think like every I'm assuming every second woman you would meet. No, absolutely not. I don't think I ever imagined I would go on and start an organization, co-found an organization. In fact, even become part of a second company. I don't think any girl in India, if you talk to, would ever tell you that, at least from our times, right, our generations, right, would ever tell you that she was confident and she could see her future as a founder of an organization. So neither did I honestly did not. I grew up in a very stereotypical Indian environment. I grew up in a military family, and what that meant for me was that I had a whole environment which was already decided up for me. So it wasn't like I had a lot to explore myself of, or I had a lot of things that I could think I could do in life. They were very decided things that girls could do in our generation, and especially for us in the military. And while I was growing up, my family obviously saw me as as becoming a doctor, and probably then getting married, having a child, the very standard protocol that you are brought up with in India. So that was my growing up like. And I don't remember ever, even when I was expected to be a doctor, that I don't remember ever being told that, hey, become a doctor and then maybe one day you could start your own hospital, or you could probably lead a hospital. What I remember, at least of my growing up years, was being told that become a doctor and then eventually find a nice husband and probably have a bunch of children. And that was always the background of the growing up years that I have, which was throughout school. And for me, it wasn't something I thought about a lot, to be very honest. I meet a lot of young girls today. I meet a lot of young women today, and they're so ahead of the curve. They are able to really imagine for themselves right when they are in school and colleges that they're going to do big things in the future. I didn't. I necessarily didn't think of the big things I was going to do in the future. I think for me, just the little things were in itself a battle. So, for a young girl who's constantly being told that there was already a path decided for her, I was constantly battling just that. I was constantly questioning as to, why am I becoming a doctor, or why am I expected to become one when it's not something that excites me, or if it's not something that I think I can do really well. So where is this coming from? So I was constantly battling that, to be honest. I was just doing that, and then I went on to college. I went on to really getting into law school. I think this is something that I talk about a lot, because for me, when I look back at my journey, I think that was the pivotal moment. I think that was the moment that changed what my story of life was going to be like, because that was the first time when I really thought for myself. And that in itself, I think, is a big breakthrough for women of my generation, to have been able to take that first decision of saying, this is where I'm going to go and get trained and I'm going to study at. So it seems like a very small incident or a very small decision, but for a lot of women like me who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, these were the pivotal decisions that you weren't allowed to take, and then you took them, right? And I went to law school. I started studying law, and I got into the space of human rights law, and that was very personal to me. That was very personal. I think I connect this to finding role models. So just like everywhere else, we didn't necessarily have role models in the legal space of women doing incredibly well. You of course had the main justices, the chief justices, you had Supreme Court lawyers, all of them were men, to be honest. And then within the scope of human rights law, you didn't necessarily see role models. And I was fortunate back then at that young age that I found a role model. She's an incredible human rights activist, and she's currently the head of Amnesty Sweden. But back then, when I was in college, she's one of the few women I saw who is out there in the field and was making the practice of human rights law a reality. And I think that spurred that little inkling of, okay, there isn't just this one decided path for you. Women are going out there and are able to really pick up what they want to do and are doing it. So for me, it that is what set the tone of what do I really want for myself. And the struggle with it is that once you've decided what you want for yourself, it's not necessary that everybody is going to align with it, right? It's not necessary that your family is going to be supportive. It's not necessary that the system around you, of the education system itself, is going to be supportive of it, right? Because there are questions around, but where will this go? But what will you do with this? Will this make money for you? Will this help you settle later in life? And somehow everything about a woman's choice come down to, will this help you settle in life later? And that is just seemingly around another person. So for me, just finding Parul Sharma as a mentor and as somebody I could look up to, learn from, changed the direction for me, at least. I kind of took a call of saying, I am going to experiment. I am going to really experience the vast amount of opportunities that are available within this particular segment. And that's how my professional life is going to be. It's not going to be straight jacketed around, just getting into a corporate job and just slugging it out there. That's not what I'm going to do. And that was a given. So that kind of dictated, I think, in a lot of ways where I am, because what it helped me really do is be okay with the idea of taking risks. And I think that's where role models matter. I think that's where, finding that one person who's probably taken the risk of doing something else matters, right? And I think that's what she gave to me. And I actually started my professional journey at a very different organization. I started working with NASCOM Foundation, and I think I have so many memories from that place. It was the only place I held a job at, and I have to say this, that it was one of the one of the most pivotal places to work at for somebody who's just starting out. I was hired by a woman leader. The CEO was a woman leader, and a lot of people who were immediately senior to me in the organization were women leaders. And I think that kind of set the tone of things. So these were women who were constantly, helping you learn. And I say that with, I know, so much of privilege behind it, so much of fortune behind it. I think I was really fortunate with it. And while I was growing in my workspace, it was because there were these women who were showing you the path again, right? I was my the leader who's hired me, Sakurika Bose, at that point of time was probably around the same age that I am now, and this is like so many years earlier. And I would look up to her and be like, she was the vice president at that point, and I would just look up to her and be like, dude, this is incredible. This is like, she is, she's up there. She is. We didn't have words like the glass ceiling, and we didn't have the jargons, the buzzword, like those, at least at that point. These are not conversations that were happening, right? So what we needed and we got was just seeing women there, right? We were able to see women in these senior leadership roles, and even if it's within the context of a non-profit organization, I saw them. And I saw the way they were able to really instill a sense of confidence, right? They were very open with saying, is there something you want to do while you're here at the organization? Here, go ahead, do it. And that for me was incredible. I was doing things, I was taking on projects, I was taking on high demand, high intensity projects, which you would probably think that you're not capable of doing. And I think that's something that women do a lot. We question, am I capacitated? Can I do this really well? But they gave it to me, and they were like, here, take it, run with it, and let's see where it takes you. And I think that also for me kind of gave me the confidence of saying that I can take high intensity, I can take high stake work and accomplish it. So at some level, that I think is what I see. I thank myself that I had, because I see young women now, and we are still talking about women not being given leadership roles. We are still stuck in an era where we still talk about merit and all of this stuff, right? And when I see that, I look back and I realize that these women gave me not just a platform. It wasn't just about here we've hired you. It was also about them constantly having your back. It was about them reinforcing that we trust you enough to build leadership caliber in yourself. And that did so much for me. I think that is where I was like, okay, if I see myself beyond NASCOM Foundation, where will I head to? What will I do? I don't think I thought of myself now selling myself short. I wasn't thinking of, I'm going to probably move at the same level. I'm probably going to move at probably some level of hike of salary. Not really. I was able to think a little bit more for myself. And that kind of laid, I think, the foundation for being able to take the risk of starting an organization, which I did much later. But then when I moved on from NASCOM Foundation, I had led a global project for them. I had wrapped up a very, very interesting fellowship with the Rockefellers in the US. And that confidence just gave me that bit of saying, hey, I can probably take some more risks. And for me, when I look at how women or minority communities are stuck, I think the big differentiator is this risk-taking capacity, right? It's so many times when I hear young women talk, and they talk to me about, I do want to do this, but I know eventually I'll have to get married. And I say that, for a minute, if you think that if you could do it, if you just had to take that jump, right, and you could quieten the voices in your head, then do that. Because I think at some level, I'll relate to what Vieshaka was saying earlier, which is that at some point it came down, at least for women like us, that is this worth it? Is this worth the risk I'm taking? And not allowing somebody else to decide it for you, right? And not letting that happen. And for me, it was interesting because I kind of shifted almost the careers I was doing. Like, I studied human rights law, I moved into directly the social impact sector. I moved into a foundation that was working in CSR with the technology industry. Back in those days, the CSR law was being written. So I was part of that. And these changes for me didn't seem very out of place. It didn't seem like, oh my God, I'm moving from this to this. Does this make sense? Because for me, it was just a very natural thing of saying that I probably can do it, and there's this one thing that I learned very early on in my career, and this was another woman leader who told me this. She said that every man, if you talk to him for a job, she's like, we can see through that he probably doesn't even know the things that he's supposed to know for the job, but he will absolutely 110% make you believe that he's the best candidate in the room. Because the whole concept of fake it till you make it, men really take it very well, and I think for us, for women, it's a little bit of, we really want to be perfect and we really want to get it all right. Everything has to be perfectly right till we think we're good enough for it, right? And I think for me, that was something I didn't carry as a baggage, to be honest, right? Because I just show up and say that, I understand that this requires a certain level of skill, but I also understand that I have the leadership potential to kind of pick up the skill and get this going for you. So what is it going to be? And I think that shifted in me. I moved on from NASCAR Foundation. I freelanced for about 4 years, and I just took on projects. Again, in the nonprofit sector, I started working with girls and getting them to learn technology. Again, something I didn't necessarily know, but I'm really passionate about that. I'm really passionate about girls wanting to learn tech. So I did that project for a couple of years. It was super exciting, super interesting, because I also learned that when you give girls tools to change the world, they think so deeply and they think so differently than if you give it to boys. And that's just data. I'm not even like making this up. This is just data that we see. And I think during those 4 years also for me, there were a lot of things about, where is life going to go, or where is it that I'm looking at a career profile, or where do I think I'm going to settle into and all that. But I think for me, again, it came back to, I'm able to lead this because I'm capable of it. And by the time I was finishing this project, one of the things I identified about myself was that I'm a hustler. I love getting things started. I love that high of an idea and really getting it up and going. That's something that kicks me, that gives me a high, that gives me a kick, that I love doing, that I'm really great at. And identifying that for me was very critical. And honestly, nobody necessarily told me this. It wasn't like, in a manager interview, I was assessed and told that, you're probably great at starting projects. I think for myself, identifying what I am really great at is something I find quite difficult also with women, because there is this tendency of seeking validation constantly. And that's also how workplaces are set up, right? Unless women are told in a managerial interview, usually by a man who's their manager, that this is good about you, they don't necessarily self-assess it. So for me, that laid the plot for Projectify and for Muse, both the organizations. I was freelancing. I met my co-founders at two different events. Actually, I actually went out for drinks with them, and we talked about everything that's happening around us, right? We're all inclined towards solving problems, social problems. And one of the things that stood out to me was the education system, and just the fact that it doesn't allow people to choose what they want to do, right? It doesn't. They don't ask you, hey, tell me, what do you really want to do, right? You go to schools, they're just constantly badgering you with calculus and with God knows what that you're not even going to use. But they will never ask a young person that, why don't you tell me what excites you, right? So that laid the foundation of the two organizations. If you ask me, did I want to be an entrepreneur? I don't think so. We're first generation entrepreneurs. A lot of us today in the ecosystem, we're what we call accidental entrepreneurs. And that's why for the first 4 years, both Defy and Muse were just ideas. We were doing the work, but we didn't think we needed an organization. I think we eventually set up an organization because how else do you do the work? You know what I mean? Like, you need a vehicle to really get the work now to scale. And I think that's how both organizations were born. And and when we were forming them, I don't necessarily think that I was giving that thought of, hey, oh my God, this next big project of starting organizations, like, oh, this is like the next big thing in my life. I think it just happened so naturally. It was the call of the time. It was something we knew we had to do for the change we wanted to bring in the world. And I found really passionate co-founders. And that's really how both organizations were born. They're both now almost 6 years old, which seems like, oh my God, forever. And but I think back in the day, we didn't necessarily think of, are we going to be these entrepreneurs starting organizations? I think we were just young people who were very confident that we are on a right path and doing that. And I think that's how we really, really began both organizations. And my favorite stories after we started are still the same, right? Which is, you still question, right? My family didn't understand this. I don't think they still understand it. They don't necessarily get the concept of this organization, running an organization, unless you're really famous or you're like minting a lot of money. There isn't necessarily an understanding of, you lead an organization. So that's just the truth right now about it. But I think I've kind of grown into the leadership role here more strongly now. We have like 20-member team, and they're all young people. So I know that for them, they look up. I know that they look for what it takes for a woman to really lead this. We have such a diverse team that for me, it's a constant lesson. I'm learning every day. We have, Vieshaka was talking about it, we have a working mother who obviously has her own life of a young child she's raising with a husband and work that she's passionate about. We have people from different geographies, and what does that mean in terms of assimilation? And I think every day I still think about how am I making some difference for them? How am I taking a decision that plays a role in their life? And I think I try very hard to not put a gender lens to it, but it's always there. I think, Sham, I wish I could do away with it. I wish I could say that now when you lead an organization, you don't have the gender lens, but that's not true. I think there is still work that I have to do. They're young people, and the times when I just step up and I'm just like, guys, this is not happening. This is just not happening. Can we just take a step back and just like talk about it? And I think my hesitations of doing that don't exist, because I'm just saying that this is what is good for the organization. So I think the battles are very similar. The battles are still, you carry the trauma of the past, you carry those questions in your mind from the past. Is this a good thing to do? Is this something you should really do? Is this something that makes sense in the larger scheme of life, right? And stopping people from making the decisions for you. So the only difference I guess I get to do is running the organization is that I get to decide for myself. And that's, I think, a huge privilege to have as a first generation entrepreneur, and to be able to still take those decisions. So yeah, I think I'll take a pause here. I'm looking for more questions. I'm looking for more people to ask me anything they want to know. And then, yeah, I'll love to talk more then.
This is what I always do. I mute myself and keep talking. Yeah. So you were talking about your how your project turned into an organization. That's really amazing. Sometimes it's not even project. I think something we love. It's the same with Mist. When I started Mist in Bangalore like 10 years back, it was just a family of 5 to 10 people coming together, maybe celebrating Holi, Diwali, or
Yeah.
Christmas or something like that. And now we are like organizing this film festival. So yeah, so I think it's journey of the things you love, and if you persist doing that, you could take it larger. And I totally connect with what you said. So I don't think a lot of our audience actually understood what is Project Defy. So could you explain, because I love the work you do, and
Yeah.
yeah, so could you explain what exactly you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So DeFi for us stands for Design Education for Yourself. And the foundation on which it is built is that we believe, the team believes that the education system as you and I know it is redundant. And the legacy traditional education system is oppressive, and it isn't meant to take people out of marginalization and oppression. It's actually created to very smartly push people into it. So, with that as a thesis, the Project Defy was built to move towards, if this education system has to go away in a utopian world, if this education system is abolished, is done with, what are the alternatives? So, we looked around, we looked for what are the kind of alternatives that exist today, what are they looking like, and we decided to build our own. So, Project Defy creates spaces, self-designed learning spaces, built by the thesis that every individual knows what they want to learn and what they want to do with that learning. Everybody knows it. We're humans, we are smart, we are capable of that. And we're trying to give that choice back into the hands of people. So, what we do is we create these learning spaces called nooks, and we create them within severely marginalized communities. So, refugee camps, post genocide sites, rural areas, and slums in urban cities. So, very marginalized communities. So, we create the nooks there, and the nooks pretty much are trying to democratize a few things. One, they're trying to democratize access to learning. So we've all spoken about, and there's this huge thing around digital India, right? That everybody has a smartphone, everybody can learn everywhere, but that's not true. The truth still remains that most people don't have access to internet to learn from, just like you and I do. So we're trying to democratize that access through technology, but very simple, basic technology. Two is democratizing choice. So, what will happen if you take away the teacher led model? Do we think that young people, old people are capable of designing their own learning path? So, two is trying to democratize that. And three is trying to see, can communities create their own learning patterns and solve problems for their communities? So, the Nooks have 10 laptops, one internet connection, a lot of junk from the community, but it's a community of learners that come together. So they figure how to use the internet, they get comfortable with using technology, and then they start choosing for themselves what they want to learn. So we don't dictate any of that. We don't have a teacher, we don't have a volunteer, we don't have mentors, nobody in the space. It's pretty much run by their curiosity. The only role we play for the first 3 months really is to get them familiar with internet, to get them familiar with technology, and to get them familiar with what making your own choices means. The most interesting thing is that people have become so used to the system where somebody is dictating it for you that if you actually ask someone, in fact, even if I ask anybody on this call right now, that if you thought for yourself, take a minute and really shut out all the noise in the world and tell me what do you want to do with life, and what do you really 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 want to learn, I think we'll all go blank. We'll all probably search in the dark for those answers, because that's what the system has done to us. So we get these communities to break that pattern. We push them towards really thinking for themselves, really going deep and saying, I don't necessarily want a bank clerk job. I don't necessarily want to be a driver for a rich man. I don't necessarily want to work as a house help in somebody's house, but instead, I want to be a radio jockey. I want to probably learn how to build videos and run a cooking show on a video platform. So that is what then we do with the community. And then the magic starts happening. They start picking up their own goals. They start building projects. They start getting familiar with how do you learn on the internet and work towards a goal and work towards bigger goals after that, right? And we start seeing some really beautiful things emerge. So we start seeing women who've never touched technology are building small little robot toys and then start selling them. Men who have never thought of cooking and food and all that start thinking of starting a canteen by cooking themselves and selling it and doing that. Right? Children who don't have voices in marginalized communities, right? Children who are probably seeing violence at home, who are probably seeing a lot of that at home, are probably going to government schools where nobody cares about them, right? We start seeing those children really start thinking of story writing, storytelling, learning UI, UX, going into those kind of photography, right? So we start seeing this emerge. And once this starts emerging, what we start seeing is that the community starts going through small little changes. They're very small. You don't necessarily see them in year 1 or year 2 of the project, but you gradually start seeing the conversations changing. You gradually start seeing how people think of the community differently. So that's what Defy is doing. We set up Nooks. We currently have Nooks in 3 countries, and we're growing. We're obviously trying to do more, and we're obviously trying to do how we do things differently. But yeah, the Nooks are what Defy is doing, which is one of its key programmatic interventions. And then it has other programs. One of the interesting programs that this is a plug, I know, but one of the things we're launching, by next week is Innovation Academy program for students across India. You can be a dropout, you could be in a university, you could be anybody can apply to it. 8 weeks of rapid prototyping, of coming in with an idea, saying this is what I want to solve, and we'll work with them, we'll work with you to really help you create that idea into a vision and actually conceptualize it and see it come to fruition, right? Because the pandemic told us that the worst hit are actually students, right? They're sitting at home, the future is uncertain, and they're all still thinking, how can I make a difference? The more kids we speak to, the more this is what we hear. So we said, okay, fine, let's take all this knowledge we have, put it together in a capsule site, 7 weeks intervention, and work with students, right? Bring together 200, 300 kids and work with them to see what ideas they have and to help them launch the ideas. So that's what we're launching next week, actually. And yeah, that's what we do at Defy.
Wow, that's very interesting, and all the best that you're going to launch next week. So before I go to the next question, I would also request, in case you all have any question to all the audience, please do comment, and the comment will be seen on the screen. Megha could pick it, or I will ask her the question. And also, I would like to also say that Project Defy is hiring. So you can reach out to us. We'll be posting it on our website also soon. And so, yeah, through Mist, we are planning to start something called Out and Loud Jobs, where you will be allowed to leave us your CVs, and we'll be sharing with all our partners. So one of them is Project Defy. Megha, thank you so much for being with us in that. And but you can still start sending. She, I think, requires urgently. Is that correct? I'm not sure.
Yes, yes, we are hiring immediately. We are hiring a project manager, and somebody who will actually take on two very new, exciting programs that we are running. So yeah, please, we're looking to hire immediately. So if you're somebody who thinks wants to join a mad team, then please do reach out to us.
Yeah. So the next question. This is the last question from my side. In case there's any other question, I'll let you know. But I've seen you very interested in all the DNI events that happen, and I've noticed a lot of time people confuse CSR and DNI are two different things. I know they come under the same or they're similar to something, but they're two different things according to me. But when I go to a lot of companies, they try to push their DNI with CSR budgets that they have, and then they like mix up, try saving some funds to show their higher bosses that, see, I've done both in thing.
Yeah.
So, like, what made you so interested? I know that you like doing this work, helping people, but like, what interests you other than what you work on? Like, you're at every DNI event.
Yeah, so I
Just
think
curious, just curious.
no, I know, right? Like I think I'm just seen everywhere, so that's why this question comes. I think for me, it's when we talk of corporate responsibility, right? There was something I learned very early, which was known as shared responsibility. And one of the things, one of the pillars under shared responsibility was how do we, who take from the community, actually make sure we replenish it, right? So CSR originally was created from that theory, and DNI for me is like you rightly mentioned, is a separate pillar, which is how do you really provide opportunities equitably, right? And not necessarily equally, but with full equity behind it. So for me, it's very important to see what the trends are going, but more importantly, to kind of create that distinction. So when you show up at these places, and when you see that these terms are being confused, that people are, really co-opting one term over the other, I think it makes sense to stand up there and say, hey, you know what? I think you're confusing this, or I think you're, so asking the right questions, right? It's so important. So for me, when I show up at these conferences, it's more from a lens of really asking these so-called corporate leaders that do you really have the handle on these things correctly yourself, right? And what you rightly mentioned, right? They try to club things and they try to really get away with it. And there is this misnomer of no, but DNI is CSR, no, but CSR is DNI. And I think it's if we don't stand up and if we don't call it out, then I think it'll continue happening. So for me, and I've worked in this industry, right? So for me, it's also about just showing up and saying that, hey, I've worked with you guys, right? I know how this gets pulled off. So let's not necessarily do that. And especially DNI, the conversations have moved so much towards rights-based conversations, right? And I think that's where I find it almost like a duty for somebody who's read the law, for somebody who knows the law, to show up and say, hey, don't just hide behind pretty words, and let's really show up to ask the right questions.
I know. I've noticed that you always ask at least one question at all these sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just the lawyer training in me, which is like, hey, but what you just said doesn't make sense. So let's clarify this again.
All right, that's really sweet, and I think you'll always be this sweet and excited, enthusiastic person. So I hope to also see you always being that, volunteering at more Mist events, being there, supporting us. So
that goes without saying, I think, Shyam. That just goes without saying.
Thank you so much. It's like it makes me feel privileged having you at all our events. So just for audience to let you know, sometimes I make sure I force Megha to sit at our Queer Bazaar stall and I'll sell all the products.
I know. And it's so much fun. I think I've learned so much about sales by doing that. I think I learned so much about just selling things by sitting at the booths.
So thank you so much, Megha, again for joining us today. Before you leave, I don't see any questions, so I would like you to leave a message to all our audience that are watching us today. What message do you have?
I'll just say that, take that risk. I'll just say that don't wait for that validation. It's not going to come. It is not going to happen. The only thing you have to question before you're really trying to take a big decision is that, is this something that makes sense to you? As long as it makes sense to you, I honestly say go ahead. We've all got real challenges that we think will matter, but they won't. I can say that very safely right now. I'm a woman who's just going to go into her 40s very soon. And I stand here having started two organizations. I will probably go on to do much riskier stuff in a few years. I'll probably take more risks. And all I can say by looking back at my journey is that take that risk, take that call, take that leap of faith. And the only faith you need is in yourself. If you think you can go ahead and do it, it'll work out. It'll honestly work out. Money, finances, it will work out. But just take that one jump and then do it. And the second big thing I will say to everyone is that find your allies, and I say this with so much in me that has found this strength through the people. So don't do this alone. Find that network, especially for minority communities. Like it is very true that men actually crack jobs and deals over a glass of beer and over a cigarette. And I know a lot of people say, I'm not telling you go have beer and go have cigarettes, but I am telling you that go find those circles and do them very, very consciously, do them aggressively. Find those circles of people who will push you to your next job, to your next risk, to your next leap of faith. So yeah, those are two things I would leave with the audience.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Megha, for joining us today. And we have a small gift for you, which you'll see on your email. And I hope you enjoy the gift.
Yes,
I know you will
I'm
do it.
sure I will.
Yeah. And now, so before we go away, I would like to thank all of you all who joined us today on live. And thank you so much for sharing your love with us. And would like to wish all of you all a happy Mother's Day from the entire Out and Loud team. And would also like to thank the donors who made this event possible and our sponsors, Barclays, Leading with Pride, Working with Pride, Publicis Sapient, IBM. Thank you so much for contributing and making sure that Out and Loud happens every year. So this is time to say goodbye. I know we have extended some time today, but all our speakers were amazing and we're so excited to share their story. And we love that. I see that audience have stayed back for a long time today. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Take care.